Welcome to the totally unofficial Minetest 0.4.16 release video. I'm your host Nathan Salpat, and in this video we'll be looking at some of the new features and changes that have been made since the last release. Being an unofficial video and mostly recorded before the release actually happened, there's a lot more features than what I'm able to cover here, and I strongly suggest checking out the complete changelog when it's published. Let's take a look at some of the changes that have happened in Minetest's game mainly, and I say that because these are nodes that have changed or things have kind of switched around with how they used to be, and it mainly affects Minetest's game, though some of these changes will affect other subgames as well. So for starters, bushes we had in 0.4.15, however we did not have, and I got one, beautiful, bush saplings. In the past, once you dug a bush, the bush was gone for good. And you got a bush stem, which could be used to give you wooden planks, and then you could use those to get sticks. So it was a method to get wood where there were no trees, which was nice. But what if you wanted to, I don't know, decorate your landscaping with bushes? There really was no way to do that. So now we do have bush saplings. They drop randomly from bush leaves. So, simple there. And moving right along, chests had minor change. Yep, that's pretty much it. They now open and close. They do a little animation there, which if there are other players in the area, they will see the animation as well. If somebody does try to dig the chest while you're looking at it and say it is empty, I guess it just disappears, which would be the same thing chests did in the past. But yeah, they now open and close. They're available in both the locked and the unlocked variants. And we have a brand new lighting option, the Mies lamp, which I think right at the end of right after the release of 0.4.15, the brightness of torches was toned down and the light ramp was kind of changed around and stuff. And basically what that did was made it that torches, amongst other things, would no longer grow plants. And for people who have farms underground, obviously that was a big problem because there was, well, no way to have those farms anymore. So the Mies lamp was introduced, which, as you notice here, fits perfectly above a fence, making it not only a good solution to growing plants underground, but a good fix for not putting torches on top of your fences. It kind of looks nicer, and it matches up perfectly. It's one increment brighter than the torch, so it does work to grow plants. And speaking of plants, we have this lovely new jungle dirt, or rainforest litter dirt, as I believe it's actually called in the node name. And it also has normal dirt underneath. If we dig it, we just get plain old default dirt, but you will find this in the bottoms of rainforest / jungles, which there are none around here, so I cannot show it in its natural habitat, but that is where you will find it. And we have some changes to sand as well. This was kind of the sand that we've had forever, and sandstone, sandstone block, and sandstone brick variants. The silver sand was introduced in 0.4.15, and desert sand's been around for a while, as well as desert sandstone. But I don't believe we had desert sandstone block and brick previously, and I know for a fact we did not have silver sandstone block and brick, and I don't think we had silver sandstone either. So now they are available in all three variants, and you could quite honestly use the silver sandstone as marble. It does kind of have that marble-ish look to it. So plenty of new options for building. And with those two new sandstone materials, we also have them available in the slab and stair variants. So you'll see here we have the brick, the block, and the sandstone in the silver and the desert, in slabs and stairs. And you will notice that the slabs do place according to the direction you're looking when you place them. So you can create different patterns by simply looking a different way when you place the node. Also, placing slabs on top of other slabs now joins them together as a full node, which I don't believe we had in the past. Also, now available in slab and stair format is ice and sand, or this isn't sand, this is snow. Why am I saying sand? Ice and snow are available as slabs and stairs. And of course, these are all using the exact same recipe, which of course I don't have. Just a second for that, Mr. Tin there. I don't have enough of those on me, but let's just go ahead and grab them. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the stair recipe, but yep. And this will be removed shortly, I believe. So build the stairs the way they appear in the menu, or in the inventory. I honestly didn't even know that reverse thing was a recipe, but I guess it is. But it may not exist for long. Also, a new change to Minetest game is the addition of tin. Tin. Oh, I threw out all of it. Oh well, it's no biggie. Right now, it doesn't have a whole lot of uses. It's basically here as something for modders to build upon. But we have tin lumps, tin ingots, which obviously we get from cooking the lump. The lump drops from the tin ore. And we have the tin block. Stairs and slabs may be added shortly, but they didn't make it to the feature freeze. The other addition, or I guess I should call this a change, is bronze is now made with tin and copper rather than steel and copper. And we have bronze slabs, stairs, full blocks, and then bronze tools, which used to exist. The recipes have just changed to get bronze. So that's basically the change there, is in how you craft bronze. And of course, modders can now use tin as another metal instead of always having to use steel. Moving right along, we have an update to slab placement and stair placement, so I should actually grab some stairs. I had all this stuff prepared, and then I went through and foolishly threw it all out of my inventory. So let's look at stairs here, and place a stair on the top, and another one, and another one, and another one, and wow, do you see what I see? This is so cool. It's super easy to make the stairs alternate direction now. And it gets even better when we try with a slab. Wows! I can literally, by clicking either on the top half or the bottom half, place the node, whoops, didn't mean to do that, floating above or sitting below, which this is going to make building so much easier. I was building a tower at one point, and I wanted to use a floor made out of slabs for no reason other than because I thought it would be cool to have a thin floor. And every time I placed a slab, it was like sitting flat against the wall and just doing all sorts of dumb stuff, and quite honestly not working how I wanted it to at all. And so I gave up. But now this would work exactly, oh, I can't, would work exactly as one would anticipate. Just by clicking on a different location on the block, you can change where the slab is placed. And in the case of stairs, whether they are placed right side up or upside down. And that is pretty much it. There was another very slight change, which I suppose I should pull up a picture here. I don't want the bookshelf, I want the book. Oh, let's go to all. The book. Evidently the book used to be a 16 by 17 texture, which of course it should never have been, but I guess it was. So it's been changed now to be a 16 by 16 texture to match with everything else. And in like fashion, the, what do we want to call it, the outline? The little thing that shows in the background here was also changed to match up to a 16 by 16 image resolution rather than 16 by 17. And that wraps up this segment of new and changed nodes in Minetest 0.4.16. Let's look at some of the new gameplay features now. So for this first one, I'm going to connect to a server. And as we load up on our little graph here, we now have a media percentage loaded. In the past, it just was a bar that never told you anything. And now you get a little percent sign going there. Another thing I can show you while I am on this server, look at the sword. Look closely. at the sword. Look at the sword. No, I'm not trying to hypnotize you. I am trying to get you to notice that there is, and this is from the name of the patch, is wield mesh natural orientation depending on pitch. So you will notice the higher I look, the lower in my hand the sword goes, and the lower I look, the higher it goes. Basically, we see more of a handle when we're looking down than we do when we're looking up. It's small, but yes, it does add a level of immersion. Now, this next feature, I don't even know if I should consider a feature, but it's a new setting option. And let me go here. So we're in settings, we go to clients, we go to graphics, we do in-game, we go to filtering, and we have undersampling. Now this, as it says here, will help you if your game struggles to perform. So let's go ahead and crank it all the way up to 4. And we'll save it. We'll go back to settings. I'm just going to go ahead and play locally here because it takes a little less time. And we now have undersampling. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, this looks like garbage. Well, let me do some magic stuff here. And no, there's nothing magic going on. But, and I don't even know why this is happening, my frames a second are maxing out at 59 frames a second. And you will notice if you look in the top left corner there, the text is still displayed very crisply. And as a matter of fact, if I go over to these chests here, the overlay text on the screen displays at native resolution, so it is still very crisp. And really the only thing that's changing is that the texture is basically, the way to look at this is it's being rendered at 1/4 of the size, and then it's being stretched up 4 times. So the computer is doing less processing to still give you a big screen image. Now this is great for someone who has a lower end computer that can't keep up with the high quality graphics. Now the weird thing about this all, let me go ahead and go back here, client graphics, in-game filtering, and I'm going to turn this down to 2. The weird thing is, if I knew where to look for this, my maximum frames per second is set at 300. I have a pretty hefty machine here, and there is 0 difference for me. So now we have undersampling set to 2, and let's look, frames per second, 59. It's literally 59 frames a second, the exact same. And this theoretically is rendering at twice the quality. And to make it even better, if I go ahead and go back through, whoops, wrong one, graphics, in-game filtering, if I go back here and turn off undersampling, and go back to single player, and let's turn that info back on. Hey, what do you know? Frames per second, 59. So I get absolutely 0 improvement by doing this. However, that is not to say that nobody else is going to get an improvement. In fact, I know other people will get improvements because I saw the reports people made about the improvements that they saw on their computer when enabling this. So it does work. For whatever reason, in my case, it simply doesn't make any difference. However, because I'm already running at 60 frames a second, I'm not worried about it. This is more than a fast enough frame rate for me. But if you have, you know, an older computer, maybe not quite as powerful of a processor in it, and you do have issues when you're playing full screen where your graphics are very laggy and jittery and stuttering, try turning the undersampling on and see if that doesn't improve things for you. And that, honestly, I think is the big new features gameplay-wise that I saw and wanted to mention. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. Now we come to the part of the video about new modding features. And unfortunately, this is not going to be super concise or in-depth because a lot of these features I honestly am not too familiar with, but I still thought these specific ones were pretty important and should be covered. So let us start with the Cloud API. I don't know how to do anything with it, but there is now an API for the clouds. You can make the clouds change. They can vary in thickness and density. I believe you can change the little color on them as well. I would like demo it, but again, I don't know how to do any of that. But it is available, and from the demo videos I have seen, it is pretty impressive. Multiple death messages will no longer spam the console. For anybody who had done any modding and had a specific callback that happened on death, I'm sure you knew how annoying it was that every single time a dead player took damage, the engine registered that they died again, and that callback was called again. It was silly, honestly. It's been fixed, though. No longer is it going to spam the console with death messages about dead players, and if you had a callback happen when a player died, it's not going to keep repeating itself, which is really nice. There was a callback added for on flood. So, for example, if I had some water here, and I placed this water someplace, such as this, when this water tried to fill into an empty node, if that node was existed, or if not if that node was existed, but if something was in that node and had an on flood callback on it, it could define certain things to happen when the water tried to flood into that node, such as in the case of grass, making it disappear and the water take over it, or turning the grass into, you know, super grass or something, cattails, whatever. The flood back is, or the on flood callback is there. I have not used it at all, so I can't vouch too much for how it works and all, but it is there. You can definitely find more about it in the Lua API. And we have hardware coloring, which is probably one of the biggest and coolest things. Now, I have honestly absolutely no idea how this works, but I have a demo set up. These lights are not part of Minetest games. This is, I believe the mod is called Industrial Lights, and they are wall mountable, ceiling mountable, I think floor mountable, whatever. But they can be dyed simply by clicking on them with a piece of dye. Now, because I am in creative mode, I have unlimited blue dye to color these. However, in non-creative, I would be using up one piece of blue dye every time I colored one. However, I would get a piece of white dye in return, because that's the old color on the lamp. Now, half of what I'm doing here is not even the new options, because this coloring is actually being done by a function in unified dyes, and Industrial Lights depends on unified dyes to do this. However, unified dyes makes use of the hardware coloring. So if we go ahead and look up eye lights, you will notice there is only one light. And if I were to open the mods, like the text up for it, the code, there is literally just one node that is registered. If you look at these, I am pointing at, it does not change. Every time it is eye lights light. They're all the same. These are all the same node, but they're different colors because of hardware node coloring. I'm assuming this decreases, well, obviously the amount of code. I'm assuming it's also a little simpler on the game engine. Not positive on that. Another cool little feature is, for some reason these place funny. I don't know why that is. It always wants to place the wrong direction. But anyway, if I color one here, you'll see up in the chat area it says coloring dye blue selected, auto coloring activated. So any other lights I put out will automatically be blue, which is nice. This feature you're going to see in a lot of Dream Builder stuff. I believe the wool mod is going to be, if it has not already been changed, to work this way as well. So they'll just be white wool and you'll color it with dye. and then you can keep placing it. And when you place these lamps, again, because I'm in creative, I can't really demo it, but with any materials, it'll automatically deduct one of that color dye and one of the base materials from your inventory. So in the case of wool, if you were placing, say, blue wool, it would take a piece of blue dye and a piece of wool, and when you dig that node, you would get the wool back and you would get the piece of dye back to your inventory. So that's kind of how that works from a gameplay perspective. From the modding side, I honestly don't know what exactly is all involved in the code. I would just recommend checking out the code for industrial lights, unified dyes, and again, checking out the Lua API text file, as that should give you an outline of everything that you need to know when it comes to hardware node coloring. And I believe that is all of the new big modding features that I saw when I was perusing through the changelog and the git changes and the can board and pretty much everywhere I could scrounge around to find information on things that have changed in this release. Client-side modding was a big change that we've seen in the 0.4.16 release, and I'm really not the right person to be talking about this at the time because honestly I don't understand a lot about it. I haven't looked at the code too much, I haven't written any mods in it, haven't really even used any too much, and it's still evolving, it's still being improved. We're going to see some more changes in upcoming releases, and it's still in development, but it's available, so let's take a real short look at it and kind of see what it can do and stuff. So, quick, really brief overview: client-side mods run on your computer rather than on the server, which brings some improvements in the terms of not having as much lag. The server doesn't have to do quite as much processing work because some of it's being offloaded onto the computer that's, your computer when you're using a client-side mod. They work like normal mods. You install them into the... Where's my mouse? Here we go. Into the client mods folder, which I have CSM Who and or detect right now, and I have no idea what this is, but let's load mod or detect false preview. Okay, this is a brand new feature. I did not even know about this before, which is probably why these didn't work. So we now have a mods configuration file. My whole script's ruined now because this has been added. I literally just built the update. Okay, so we have to enable them by typing true in the configuration folder. I assume it'll automatically detect everything that's in here and put them into this when Minetest runs? I'm not really sure. So we have to enable them here. And then we also, in the Minetest configuration file, which is housed in the Minetest folder here, we have to have a line that says enable client modding equals true. And, oh, yeah, I should mention, now that I just messed up my whole script, there is a form topic client-side modding. This is where you will find the different client-side mods, and you can learn some more about it. But yeah, let's launch Minetest, and I apologize in advance if this gets all flickery on you. It's being recorded with different software than I normally use because of using multiple windows. And the other software doesn't like dealing with multiple windows. It works really well with a single window, but if you have multiple, it kind of works like garbage. Okay, so we have... Oh, I left my... We have... It says CSM loaded who. So now if we use the... A CSM, by the way, client-side modding. It's the abbreviation. I'm going to be using it pretty much the whole time, so just get used to it. If we type in who, it pulls up this nice little box. Players currently on line 1. Hey, it's me! And close. You can't really do anything. It just shows them in a little box instead of doing the status command, which gives you the server version, the uptime, the lag, the clients. Well, clients, that's what your who does. And, or detection's enabled. I don't think it's configured yet. Or detection is, I think, actually one of the first mods. Invalid command. What? Or detection. No. Oh, it's or detect. Duh. Or detect detect help. Alright, so this pretty much will help you find nodes. And now it's called OR, but it'll actually find any mod. So it's turned on, I need to add, so we just type in add. Okay, so OR detect add default dirt. Just as a demo, it's added to search list. Alright, so now when I punch the ground, it tells me default dirt was found at negative 515.1.208. If we turn on our debug info, we see up in the, well, now it disappears. Up in the top left here, we have our coordinates, and this is telling me where default dirt was found. So I don't know. You can kind of consider it a hack because you could do something like or detect. What would it even be? Default stone with diamond? Default dirt was found. Yeah, well, we want to remove that. Alright, so now when I punch, if there was diamond around here, it would give me the coordinates of it. Now, there's options to vary your search radius and everything, but this isn't a review of that mod. It's of client-side modding. So that's kind of the deal. You download them like a normal one, so you'll see it's on GitHub. You would go there, throw it in the client mods. Boom. That's kind of all there is to it. They start with a period instead of /, so you can easily tell the difference between client-side and server-side mods. Yeah, and now just for some boring stuff I get to talk about, some disclaimers. There's been some worry about client-side mods enabling people to cheat. It's kind of not an issue when you could already just change the source to the engine and have no clip and full brightness and fly and fast and everything, because I've never done it, but I guess it's super easy to just hack the code and make a client that doesn't care about any of those settings. It seems really weird to me that that's the case, but again, I've never done it. I've never dealt with it, so I don't know. But I bring that up because there have been a few security-ish issues that have been discovered. And I use the term security really loosely. Locked chests or other locked inventories, if the form spec was only being shown, or how to explain this? So say you have a locked chest. The old code for a locked chest just checked on right click if you were the owner of that chest and if you were displayed the form spec. With client-side modding, there are some that you can see what's inside of chests even if they're locked. Which, okay, big deal, but you could take stuff out of those chests, and it actually worked. You could steal stuff from these people's locked chests because the code for those locked chests was not checking that you were an owner when you took items out, because it was assumed if you had opened the chest and were viewing the form spec, you must have been the owner because you opened it. So why would we check if you're the owner when you manipulate the inventory? With client-side modding, well, now anybody can look at those chests. So whoever discovered this, I forget who he was, he identified which mods had this issue and pretty much put in bug reports not bug requests, bug reports on all of those different mods, and everything got patched. The world's a safer place. Now you can't hack it with client-side modding, and theoretically, if you were to have a hacked client, you couldn't steal stuff from locked chests either, because it's checking, the server is checking, when you manipulate inventory in that chest, or whatever the item is, that you are the owner or you should have permission to do it. So things have improved actually because of client-side modding, because bugs were found that should not have been there, but, well, they were. And now kind of what I see as the future for client-side modding, which I know is pretty dumb for me to be talking about because I don't even understand it too much, but the big uses I see, things like the immersion mod, which basically plays sound effects depending on where you are and what's around you. So if there's water, maybe you'd hear water sounds, or frogs if it's nighttime and there's water, or crickets if you're around grass and it's daytime, or maybe crickets if it's nighttime. I don't know, whatever. Wind rustling through trees, birds, different things like that. When the server is hosting that, and say you got, 10 people on the server, the server computer is now scanning the radius around every single one of these players, looking for nodes around them, deciding which sounds to play, telling their client to play it. It's a lot of extra work on the server. Whereas with client-side modding, my computer would be scanning the nodes around me, which it already has in memory because obviously I can look around and see these nodes. So they're already loaded. So my computer just does a quick scan, says, oh, there's these nodes. Hey, let's play the sound effect. The server's not worried about it. And another upside is I can use any sound files I want. And by that I mean like as big as I want, and it doesn't matter because it's not going to affect the loading time when I join that server. Because the files already exist on my computer. I'm not downloading them. Which means everybody else who's not using the ambience mod or is playing Minetest with sound turned off isn't downloading all these sound effects that they'll never hear because the server's not hosting them. So I see a lot of benefits, a lot of potential in client-side modding. Again, it's really new. I don't know a lot about it. I plan on learning a lot about it though, and then doing some videos on it. But I will point out right now that the code is pretty much the same as standard mods. You know, it's all in Lua. You know, we're still dealing with form specs, chat commands, all the same kind of stuff here. So it shouldn't be too hard to learn. You just kind of need to learn the new API features that CSM brings and how to use them in your code. And I think that's going to wrap it up. I could probably talk longer, but I don't know, again, a whole lot about it, and I don't really want to make a fool of myself. So we're just going to end this section here. That's going to wrap it up for this release video. If you haven't already, please update your client to the latest version to get all the new features and improvements. As always, you can download from minetest.net. If you've enjoyed this video and want to learn more about Minetest, please check out my channel, as I have hundreds of Minetest videos covering many different topics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.